being on time. We have a quorum, and the agenda has been distributed, and seek a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thanks, Denise. Thanks, Doug. The minutes as well have been distributed, and seek a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion.
Thanks, Jackie.
Second.
Thanks, Denise. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
So this time we're going to move on to recognition. Yes, we are.
Mr. Brennan.
Thank you. I go back a long way with this
Yes, we
young
do.
man.
Thank you for saying young man.
When you get to be a certain age, you say that a lot.
Yes.
Makes you feel.
Oh, yeah.
So this is Tom Brennan. Before Tom came to CDTA, he was working in security for. Actually, I think I know this stuff by heart. But I need to make sure I get it right.
Okay.
I don't want your mother to be mad.
Oh, I don't want that either.
But Tom worked in security at Hudson Valley Patrol at the Port of Albany. Feeling that he needed a change of scenery, he applied to CDTA at the recommendation of his longtime family friend, the McNultys in Green Island. And when I say longtime family friends, I mean it.
Yes.
And I learned that over the next number of years. Tom heard that CDTA was a great company to work for, and he had been riding buses since he was about that big. He even remembers when the fare was a dime.
Yes.
Some of us don't even remember what dimes are. So Tom came to work here in 1987 as a cleaner, and he spent his first year in Albany and in Troy. And it was great because he learned how to clean and fuel buses. But when an opportunity to be a call taker came up, he looked into it and decided that that would be the best thing for him, because after all, he knew all of our schedules basically off the top of his head, had a vast knowledge of our route network, and was very familiar and friendly with a lot of our bus operators. When he started in the call center, these are some interesting observations. There weren't any computers, and there was no such thing as real-time information. He remembers having to juggle large 3-ring binders full of schedules, handwritten complaint forms, and basically trying to help people when the information in front of you was somewhat scattered and disorganized. So he's seen us grow, he's seen us change, and points to new technology as being very helpful to get work done quicker, more accurately, and hopefully to help customers to get where they want to go easier. He observes back around 1990, 1995, you couldn't even transfer a call, so there was a separate phone to our dispatch center that you needed to use whenever there was a problem to find out where a bus was. Everything is now merged. Information is available in real time. It's sort of always right up on the screen. It makes things a lot easier. He enjoys serving the public, providing customers the best service possible, helping people get to where they want to go. That makes his day. In his spare time, this is the tough part for me. In his spare time, Tom likes to go to New York City, and especially likes to go to Yankee games and collect die-cast buses.
Yes,
And fire trucks. Right?
Yes, and fire trucks.
He's very active in his church as a Eucharistic minister and as an usher. Tom still lives in Green Island with his sister and his mom, who are both well known to the customer service center staff, and frankly are well known to most of us at CDTA. If you know Tom, you know his family. He's hoping to hang around, he says, for another 3-4 years.
3 years.
3 years. Change that.
Right down there.
I guess it works out. I was kind of hoping to make it to 35 years, but congratulations, Tom, on 30 years of great service.
Very good.
Yeah, 30 years of great service, and put his heart and soul into CDTA, and his mom and sister, and his dad when his dad was alive, and his brothers. The Brennan family are part of CDTA.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you once again, Tom, for your
Thank you.
service.
You
Yeah.
can say.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. have lunch with us,
Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
as well.
If I get you in trouble, just let me know.
Okay.
Alright, so I gotta pass.
So at this time, we're going to move on to our committee reports, and Dave is going to provide us the Board Operations Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Board Operations Committee met on November 20th at 7:45 a.m. We had no consent agenda items, but we did have several administrative discussion items. The first of those was that we reviewed a meeting schedule for the first quarter of 2019, and that was distributed to the committee members. Board Operations will continue to meet 2 weeks in advance of the board meeting, and the other three committees will convene a week prior to board meetings, as we have typically done in the past. The schedule is subject to change at the discretion of the Board Ops Committee, and as we move forward with that schedule, we'll extend the timeline and get future dates out to the rest of the board. The next item was that we had a discussion about government relations, and Carm informed us that Lisa Morello would be invited to our meetings, future meetings, in order to provide updates during our advocacy time. We have upcoming meetings with legislators, agency heads, and others who are advocates for our transit needs. Next item was that we are working with NIPTA to provide a list of our needs in order to ensure success across the state for transit. We need to be clear about the role that we play in the communities we serve and the benefits that good transit service provides. More to come in the next few months as those meetings materialize. And finally, we talked about our solid financial condition, and you'll hear more about that in the Performance Monitoring Committee report. We continue to maximize our resources to do everything on our agenda, and this is a difficult challenge, but that's why it's important for us to advocate for what we need in order to make CDTA bigger and better. Next meeting of the committee will be Tuesday, January 15th at 7:45 a.m. And unless there are questions, that concludes the report.
Thank you, Dave. Any questions, comments? Okay, all right. And next, we're going to move along to the Performance Monitoring Committee report, and Denise is going to handle that. We have several consent agenda items on there, so
Yes, we do.
Denise.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yes, the committee met, our chairperson wasn't able to be here today, so I'm doing this in his absence. But the committee met on December 5th, right here at the headquarters. The first item that we have on our consent agenda is to approve a contract award for maintenance uniforms. In April of 2018, the board awarded a 3-year contract to Cintas of Lee, Massachusetts. Is that pronouncing that right?
Yeah.
But since that time, there have been several issues of noncompliance, and we're terminating the contract. The staff has researched for a new provider and found 2 vendors willing to provide uniform services. Ulster Uniform Service is able to get our maintenance uniform program up and running quickly. So we need a motion to approve a 3-year contract for maintenance uniform rentals to Ulster Uniform Services Incorporated of Kingston, New York, for an amount not to exceed $45,000 per year. The total contract value of $135,000.
So at this time, we need a motion to approve resolution number 44-2018.
So moved.
Thank you, Dave.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jackie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion, resolution is approved.
The next item we have is approval for a contract award for market research services. Request for proposal was issued for market research services. 2 firms submitted proposals. Firms were asked to provide research services including customer satisfaction surveys, assessment of stakeholder opinions, and testing of new product and service concepts. Staff reviewed both proposals and found fact finders to be most aligned with our business needs. Fact Finders is the incumbent and has provided this service for many years. So we need a motion to approve a 3-year contract with 2 optional years with Backbinders of Albany for an amount not to exceed $60,000 per year.
Okay.
I'm going to make that motion.
Okay. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Dave. Any questions, comments? All right, resolution number 45-2018 is approved.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Excuse me. Thank you. Resolution is approved.
Okay.
Next, Denise.
So yes, our next item is an award for electric buses. CDTA was awarded a $959,375 grant under the federal Low-No grant opportunity to invest in battery electric bus technology and associated support equipment. Part of the grant application required CDTA to identify vendors to partner with during the implementation of the project. We identified New Flyer of America. The selection process for the grant award satisfied the FTA requirements for competitive procurement. New Flyer will provide 4 40-foot buses on their Excelsior Charge platform with power capability up to 480 kilowatts per hour, monitored by a battery management system with a direct drive system, no transmission. We operate a dozen New Flyer buses, currently articulated buses, and we are satisfied with their performance. And we need, and just to explain, make sure everybody understands, we had to identify the manufacturer of the buses in order to put in the application, had to go in with the application. So we need a motion to approve the purchase of 4 electric buses and associated equipment of New Flyer America in the amount of $3,945,000.
So move.
Thank you, Mark.
I'll second.
All right, thank you, Jackie. Any comments or questions? Yes, Mark?
How many seats in the 40-foot buses?
About 38, depending on the seat configuration that we choose, but roughly 38.
And then the other question was, it mentions the federal low grant VW settlement. Was that approved?
VW settlement? Well, we're still waiting for the distribution, and how much we would receive. So there are some assumptions in how we will pay for these. It's an important point that the committee talked about at length.
Yeah.
I understand that it's pretty much a done deal.
Yes, I don't think it would, I think it's safe to say it's a done deal, that the money will be distributed to transit systems across New York State. However, we don't know how much that is. And one thing that is very important, it has been made clear that the money that is distributed, you're eligible to pay the delta, the difference between a diesel bus and an electric bus, which is significant, but not the whole bus, only the difference.
Okay.
Now, charging technology is also eligible, so we think we can garner a good deal of funding for it, but we just don't know yet.
And we should be saving on fuel costs and maybe maintenance over time.
Over time, yes, 4 buses on.
For a pilot, there's a learning curve.
Yeah, this is a pilot, and we'd like, obviously we want to know what we're going to save, but I wouldn't put any money in the bank. In fact, at least initially, we may spend more money as we teach ourselves the technology. But I think that's money well spent. And this board has been out ahead on this issue. And hats off also to staff who's pushing to move this quickly. But when you do things quickly, there are some unknowns.
Dave?
I think part of our discussion too in committee, just to get it on the record, and I know it's in here, but this is a little bit unusual in the way we procure things here, and that by naming a vendor, we essentially are allowed by FTA to buy additional buses without a competitive process. But Stacy's indicated that we're well within our procurement guidelines with purchasing the 4 buses, even though the grant was really for less than 1 bus. And also that she had done some research to make sure that the price we're paying is in the range of prices that have been paid by other systems who have gone through a a competitive procurement process. So this one's a little odd for us, only from the standpoint that we're spending $4 million and really we didn't go through a normal procurement process for it. But I felt very comfortable after our conversation that we're fine to do this, just a little different for us, so.
And, you know, should be noted that, you know, staff also, you know, appreciates that type of discussion. I mean, and that's, I think, what differentiates the governance model. You're in committee, you can have that kind of discussion. You know, frankly, we aired that out for the better part of 30 minutes. You know, what if, how come, how does this work? Because, you know, it's a $4 million purchase that's not competitive in the way we usually define it. That is a little bit odd, and we should have a discussion about it. It should be about. But I think we've done everything according to what the rules and regulations allow you to do. But we're also fast tracking it.
Yes.
Which sometimes I've heard it after, I've heard it admitted in the last months, and it makes me happy to hear. Sometimes you have to stretch in order to get things done. You want to be innovative, you want to be different, right?
Okay,
All good.
yep. So all those in favor of approving resolution number 46-2018 to award the contract for purchase of 4 electric buses?
Aye.
Okay, resolution is approved.
Okay, and our next contract award that we're seeking approval for is for Gateway Plaza. Gateway Plaza, formerly known as Liberty Park, has been going through a community revitalization this year with several enhancements to the park, including a new bus shelter. Adjacent to the park is the Adirondack Trailway Station, which has been in a state of decline in recent years and is in need of upgrading. CDTA has held several discussions with stakeholders to make improvements to this station. We have reached a point to engage architects and engineers to advance the concept. A request for proposals was issued and 4 proposals were received. After proposal reviews, staff is recommending Sawinski Sullivan Architects of Sparta, New York for design services. And at this time, we need a motion to approve a contract to be awarded to Sawinski Sullivan Architects, PC of Sparta, New Jersey, it's New Jersey, for Gateway Station design for an amount not to exceed $270,000.
Okay, at this time, we seek a motion to approve for resolution number 47-2018.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Jackie, second. Thanks, Dave. Any questions? Yes,
I
Cory.
would just like to note that there was discussion, you know, in committee about the importance of this project, including, you know, from a labor standpoint, access for employees to bathrooms and such. So I want to make sure that was in the record that we had an extensive, you know, a discussion about that at the time.
Yep.
So we'll look forward to this new facility, hopefully getting built quickly.
Yeah.
Is there an estimated time frame for this?
Yeah, well, that's the interesting part here. We have several project partners. This contract doesn't commit us to spend any money, but we now have authorization to start some design services. It will remain to be seen how we can package this with, you know, we don't own the property, and we aren't, you know, directing the revitalization efforts in that neighborhood. So we have to work with several partners in order to advance this. Optimistic, yes. Calendar, not available right now.
I just wanted to mention that while I was at the city development director, CDTA was an excellent partner in the revitalization of this big, huge project. It was an essential brownfield with some FEMA money, so it's an excellent project, and I think this next phase is going to be great. So.
Sure.
So noted. Any other questions or comments? Okay. All those in favor of approving resolution number 47-2018?
Somebody moving yet?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jackie
Moved and
moved
seconded.
and I seconded.
Yep. To award contract for the Gateway Station design. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, resolution is approved.
Okay, next one. Approval of a contract award for fuel. Our current diesel fuel contract expires in June of 2019, and staff has been monitoring fuel markets for future pricing opportunities. As we do all the time. This is something we do on a regular basis. Fuel is a volatile commodity with market prices changing daily. Because of this, it's in CDTA's best interest to waive the traditional competitive procurement process and lock in pricing when it becomes cost effective. Our process for purchasing fuel is to buy fuel 1 to 2 years in advance if pricing is competitive. This has significantly improved budgeting and predictability. Our supplier is Marabito Incorporated, based in Binghamton with local distribution. We currently pay $2.04 per gallon. The fuel markets have been as high as $2.70 per gallon this past year. In October, fuel prices started to decrease, and on November 13th of 2018, this year, fuel prices fell to $2.30 per gallon, and the lowest point, which is the lowest point they've been in several months. So we need a motion to approve a contract to Marabito Energy Products for ultra-low sulfur diesel at $2.30 per gallon, and ultra-low sulfur kerosene during winter months at $2.62 per gallon for the period of June 2019 through June 2020, which is $4.9 million is the minimum expected contract value.
All right, so at this time, we seek a motion to approve resolution number 48-2018 to award sole source diesel fuel contract to Marabito Energy Products. So moved. Thanks, Dave.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jackie. Any comments or questions?
So just to point out, as Dave talked about in the bus purchase, this actually is a little different. And this is where the board has authorized staff to basically, we've outlined a procedure. And we use it for this, and we've been successful. And sometimes we come to you once a year, sometimes it's every 18 months, sometimes it's every 6 months. We might be back to you, 3 months from now saying, boy, but prices continue to decline, and we have an opportunity to buy out another year. And we've at times been out 2.5 years, and honestly, that's often will work to our benefit. So I think this is really good policy. It allows for us to respond to the changing nature of the market, but at the same time, know when we pencil in a penny, the budget number, it's not going to change. Some people play the market, some people leave themselves over. Some people do it every 6 months. Who shows it's sort of in the middle. But it's really, I think it's really good public policy. Appreciate it.
Okay. All right. So all those in favor of approving resolution number 48-2018, award sole source diesel fuel contract to Marabito Energy Products?
Aye.
All right. Resolution is approved.
Okay, continuing with my report, the audit committee had no items scheduled for the past meeting, and the investment committee just met this morning, and a report will be sent out to the board as usual. Under administrative discussion items, we received the monthly management report. Mike Collins gave his report, and highlights of the report include that the MRT, which is mortgage recording tax, is slightly under budget for the year, while customer affairs continue to exceed budget projections by 3%. Wages and purchase transportation are over budget this month, primarily because of more work days in the month. And our total revenue is 1% over budget for the year, and year-to-date expenses are slightly under budget, keeping us in a satisfactory cash flow position. On the non-financial performance report, Chris Destiny gave the monthly non-financial report. Total ridership was down 2% for the month and 6% for the year. On-time performance was at 74%. There were 48 missed trips per month this month. Scheduled work was at 85%. There were 16 preventable and 31 non-preventable accidents. And the website page views were at 697,211. And that concludes my report.
Thank you to Denise for that, and
Any questions?
all the other items. Any questions for?
Okay.
All right. Thank you. right, and then I'll do the Strategic and Operation Planning Committee, met on December 6th, 2018, 8:30 here at 110 Watervliet Ave. We have one consent agenda item to discuss. Our preliminary budget approval for fiscal year 2020. We are required to submit a board-approved preliminary budget to New York State by December 31st, 2018. To do this, we have made several broad assumptions for next fiscal year, which starts on April 1st, 2019. Over the next few months, we will provide the Strategic and Operational Planning Committee with options to review and consider as we go through the budget development process. The preliminary operating budget is projected to be $92.8 million, 7.8% increase from this year. The $6.6 million deficit is very typical at this early point in the budget development process. The major revenue questions for fiscal year 2020 include how much operating assistance will the state provide, how much federal maintenance should we allocate to operations, how much mortgage recording tax should we project. We are projecting increases in customer revenue due to bike share and universal access contracts. Expenses are projected to increase by $6.7 million. Wages and benefits account for about 70% of our expenses, and we are projecting the wage line to increase by $2.8 million. We are evaluating service levels that define headcount numbers, which ultimately drive wage and benefit costs. We are also projecting increases in healthcare, workers' comp, professional services, and purchase transportation. The 5-year capital plan was also provided and reviewed. Staff is recommending that the fiscal year 2020 preliminary operating budget of $797,977 and a 5-year capital plan of $349,490,000 be approved to meet our New York State statutory requirement. So at this time, we seek out. Thank you, Denise. Second. Thank you, Dave. Any questions or comments?
I think Mike kind of encapsulated this.
Yeah.
This is at best, an early estimate, and frankly, without good numbers, it's just put a placeholder in there. I think obviously on the expense side, we have a lot of work to do. On the revenue side, we have a lot of work to do as well, and that's why our advocacy at the statewide level especially is important. And the advocacy that we're doing, mainly through APTA at the federal level is important. There are signs of possibly some discussion on infrastructure at the federal level. So I think all of us have to sort of keep our eyes wide open. We've got some friends in APTA, and right now we're very, very active at the state level with our friends at the association and with Lisa Morell and her team, highlighting our particular needs. And long list of projects. One of our staff, Chris Desney, said recently we have 25 pounds of ideas and projects, only 5 pounds of resources. That's the problem. How do you sort of balance that a little bit better?
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
And as far as administrative items, we discussed the River BRT planning session. Ross Farrell facilitated a session to discuss the River BRT. Following the success of the Red Line, CDTA continues to advance its mission of 40 miles of BRT with a blue line. It encompasses a 16-mile corridor with 31 stations, infrastructure improvements, 20 vehicles, a garage expansion, queue jumpers, transit signal priority, real-time passenger information, and cameras. The project history dates back to 2009, and several studies and plans recommend and support the project. Benefits of reduced transfer and travel times, improved access, and enhanced waiting experiences were discussed. The overall capital cost of the project is $41.4 million, and the operating cost is $2.8 million. Small starts itself and the project status in the pipeline was explained, as well as the incremental nature of the construction. A total of $11.6 million for the project has already been obtained, most of which has been spent. CDTA is currently seeking 65% funding of the total project cost from the Small Starts program, with an additional $14.5 million coming from other sources. Operating costs were discussed in detail and will require further conversations around how we will run the service in relation to other service adjustments. We have submitted for a grant to fund a portion of these costs, but it is not perpetual. Project risks were discussed and include variability in construction costs, land acquisition delays in the Small Starts process, and the impact on ridership and revenue. That concludes my report. Our next,
Question?
yes, go right ahead.
I know that the property owner of the Uncle Sam site is fighting us in court. I assume from last week's discussion that that is concluded, but I don't think I've heard official notice.
It's
that.
not concluded. You know, we're in the eminent domain process, which is a calendar. We are hopeful of conclusion early 2019, which is a month away. Keep your fingers crossed.
All right. Any other questions, comments? All right, our next meeting of this committee will be on Thursday, January 24th, 2019 at 12 p.m. here at 110 Watervliet.
And just, you know, if anyone has any questions, and sort of a couple days afterwards now, you know, Ross and Chris did a great job in designing these slides. There was a lot of information, and we tried to do, or they tried to do it in a way that, you know, was easy to understand, entertaining. It's a tough word talking about federal grants, but if you have questions or something, you know, hit you, still don't get that, feel free to reach out. You know, we'll do our best to help. But we really appreciate the time that you gave to that. At least everyone is a little bit more knowledgeable about a complicated process. But you know, that 2.8 million operating is part of that. You know, you've got 25 pounds of stuff, 5 pounds of resources, and that will be the next struggle. How do you balance the budget year to year, knowing that that's coming?
I appreciate the discussion. I think we had good discussion. The presentation was great. It was very informative, and I think the board had good discussion amongst ourselves too. So we're at least aware of what's ahead for us, and we'll hopefully keep an optimistic thought that the federal process moves along a little more quickly now. It seems to be breaking free a little bit, and it's exciting. It's an exciting project, and I think it's a game changer for us.
We're just Denise and I are saying, I'm not sure about yesterday's events. If that
Well, I know.
helps or hurts.
I know.
Hard to see what helps.
All right, and next, Jackie is going to provide the Community and Stakeholder Relations Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the Community and Stakeholder Relations Committee met on December 7th, 2018 at 11:30 in the morning. There were no consent agenda items, but there was a number of administrative discussion items. So this is the second meeting of the committee. We reviewed an inventory of our stakeholders and the nature of the relationships, and that took up the good majority of the meeting. This is an exhaustive list that shows our deep connections in the community and gives us an idea of where our strengths lay and where we may need to focus time and energy to deepen relationships elsewhere. A suggestion from the committee was to add a mobility category to the stakeholder relations list due to the changing landscape of our industry and our integration with bike share. We also talked about the services that are provided by not-for-profits, particularly senior centers and the Center for the Disabled. Where possible, we'd like to collaborate with them and track our level of success. Community engagement is a key component of CDTA's success within the Capital Region. We discussed upcoming engagement efforts and how important fostering these connections are. Jamie Watson gave an update on media relations, as well as highlighting several community events that CDTA has hosted since our last meeting. And the next committee meeting is scheduled for the end of January. Time and date will be announced shortly.
Thank you. Thank you, Jackie. Any questions, comments?
Yeah, just a early heads up on that. The date that we've given you for January may need to be changed.
What was the date?
Till at 11.
It was the 25th, but it's
We'll reach
not
out.
going to be anymore.
There's a conflict.
Okay.
Okay. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll get some information out.
All right. Thanks again, Jackie. And, Carl,
Yes.
will provide
I
the
haven't been planning to participate in that committee, but I got a doctor's appointment.
CEO report.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. My report is in your packets. I apologize for the length, but it covers really about 6 weeks, not usually 4 weeks. It's a little longer. Just a couple of highlights. You all know that our collective bargaining agreement with the ATU is in place, and I'm pleased to report that new pay rates, steps, associated components of the contract, details that we might take for granted, require a lot of effort by a lot of people to put into place, to get going. The people in our operating departments, people in human resources, particularly the people in payroll. And really, it's a job well done. It was done quietly, quickly, and very efficiently. At the same time, we're managing changes to the health insurance plans that we negotiated. The open enrollment process was recently completed. And just for your information, during our open enrollment process, all employees are required to verify their benefits and make any changes that they need to make. But at the same time, you have new benefits kind of overlapping, health insurance benefits overlapping. So there's been a lot of information days. We've got our carriers in here, we've got our broker in here. The ATU has been helpful in making sure that these questions are directed to the HR people who do this for a living, and we give everyone the same answer. Consistency is very important. So all that is just about done. So far, so good. It looks like all thumbs up moving forward. However, on January 1, be the real test. People will start showing up at their doctor's office or at their specialist office with their new card, new rates, subtle little changes here or there. They'll basically test to see how good we were at all this, but it'll generate another series of questions and I'm sure some issues and some problem resolution, but HR is on top of it, is managing it. They're very detailed. I have every confidence that it will be smooth, but it's a tough process. Even the smallest change affects a cluster of people, and you have to explain it to them. Our retirees, for example, the smallest change generates a lot of hubbub, but so far so good. But there's a lot of behind the scenes that happens after the contract is signed. It's officially budget season with the board action to submit the preliminary budget to the state comptroller. We're officially underway, but in reality we've been underway for a while. We try to build the budget from the bottom up every year and try to involve all departments in a meaningful exchange of what they need, what they have, and then try to match up our resources accordingly. But it's tough. So a lot of our work right now is on the advocacy side, and we'll develop the budget, monthly or even actually more than monthly through the strategic and operational planning committee. So advocacy, I gave you a couple of paragraphs about what's going on, and we've talked about it here in various conversations already for the past half hour or so. So I won't reiterate that, but the focus right now is state operating assistance still, and how do you fund that? NIPTA has a coalition, a new coalition designed to highlight what we do in our state and why we're so important. I encourage you to join. It's located at the NIPTA website, nipta.org. You can also find it on our website. There are links to the coalition. It's a simple process. You've probably seen most of the materials, but if any of the materials generate a question or an observation, feel free to let me know. I was happy to see the discussion in Jackie's committee about stakeholders and stakeholder relations. We've talked about that for a long time. I think we have a good exchange. We had a good exchange about it, but first time I've seen it sort of in one place, right in front of us, where we can say, hey, we're doing really well in this area, but maybe not so well, or boy, what about the mobility arena and how do we expand that? I think that focus will make us better. So it was a long time coming. We talked about it. It stopped and started. Lived in a committee. It was part-time in another, but it also sort of tells me that the work that we did with Doug Eady, it was well worth it. Sometimes it's painful to get through, and I know it's hard, but you sort of see the results and the benefits a little ways down the road. We wrapped up season 2 of CDPHP Cycle last week. Media event was held over at CDPHP. It showcased our partnership, our relationship with CDPHP, and our efforts to grow Cycle. Dr. John Bennett, CDPHP CEO, led the event and spoke about our partnership. Frankly, spoke glowingly about it. At the end of a year and a half of operation, we have more than 6,600 members, which have generated 35,000 bike rides. I'm not sure any of us thought we would achieve those kinds of numbers, relatively speaking, given the size of our program, which is still relatively small. Those are great numbers. And we're already looking forward to season 3. John Scherzer and his staff are now integrating our universal access partners into the program, bringing them in and opening up the access with additional revenue, of course. And it's been amazing how receptive they are to that idea. So more growth, more opportunity for CDK. I think we've talked about the electric bus pilot enough, but that's a step in the right direction. We wanted to get involved in alternative propulsion. We don't really know what the future has to hold. Everything looks promising, and I have all the confidence in our maintenance department. It should be less maintenance. It should be better fuel economy. It should be reduced costs. And we're pitching the idea of expanding electric buses in the right area to state officials. Specifically, we're looking at the possibility of electrifying the river corridor. Perfect timing if it all works out that way. And film at 11 on that idea. I guess I want to mention the Amalgamated Transit Union Local 1321 is holding elections today for leadership office. Hopefully by the end of today we'll know what the results are. We'll report the slate. But I just want to tell you how much we appreciate the work that the ATU does to support our employees, and we will continue to work with them to advance the initiatives of CDTA. It's a tremendous working relationship that's developed over the years, and Corey and his team continue to work to find ways to make CDTA bigger and better. Sometimes it may not always look that way or sound that way, but we do agree that we want a bigger and better CDTA. We talked about key performance indicators. The activity report is long. I'll just call out a couple of things. Just seems like so long ago, November 1st, we had a media event to kick off the Albany City Trolley. We had a lot of partners there, a lot of stakeholders who are invested in that trolley service, including Mayor Kathy Sheehan, who spoke about the benefits. And thanks to Dave Stackrell and Corey Bixby for coming. It was actually almost 2 months ago, but it was colder and drearier that morning than it is today. I want to highlight on the 15th of November, management staff, supervisors attended a mandatory training session on recognizing, preventing, and reporting sexual harassment in the workplace. The session was designed to conform to the new state law on this subject, and we're planning a similar training session for board members in January. So I'm pleased that the policy making part of the company is actively involved, and appropriate reporting is underway. I'm not sure if I reported this last time, and I apologize if I did, but on good news, you might as well say it twice. On November 19th, I accepted an overage check from Lamar Transit in the amount of almost $350,000. This is on top of their $825,000 guarantee, which brings total revenue from our facility advertising program for this year to almost $1.2 million. Talk about partnership. We've been working with them for 15 years off the top of my head, and we've all sort of collectively watched this and helped it. John Surger and his staff do a lot of work with Lamar. But boy, they're just outstanding representatives of CDTA. They understand who we are, what we want to be. Our buses look great. Every now and then an advertiser might get a little too far out ahead of us, but they're really great. And the sales numbers, they speak for themselves. I can tell you without doubt, the leader in New York State in advertising per unit, and we might be one of the leaders in the Northeast on advertising per unit. It's just really, really outstanding. It's grown from almost a forget-me-not line to, significant money now. Contributes to bigger and better cities. A couple weeks ago, November 28th, 29th, 27th, I kind of forgot the dates, I attended APTA's Industry Summit in Washington. Dave, obviously, I'm not sure if you can say it anymore. Dave, of course, was there. Denise was there. Who else? Corey couldn't attend. And some of our staff people were there. It wasn't exactly what was intended. It was originally intended to be sort of a merging of several APTA events. It sort of had a stop and start thing, but there were separate tracks for board members, separate tracks for CEOs, separate tracks for safety and security. Bob Sears and Rich Cordero were there. I thought it was a good conference. Hopefully, everybody, we can all agree on who we are, what we want to be within APTA. We might not need 10 or 12 conferences. Maybe we can get to a fewer where we can all share resources. But it's just good to go to these things and listen to what's going on in the industry and to learn that in a lot of areas we're not in leadership areas, but we're a little ahead of the curve, especially in the stakeholder relations. I hear more and more at APTA that the transit systems need to be relevant. I heard that word, relevant, in their communities. Well, we've been saying need to be relevant for a long time. And I think people misunderstand what relevant is. It's not necessarily, there's only so many people that are going to use your service. How do you be relevant, though, to others who can be very supportive of your efforts, can help you in certain construction projects or whatever it might be. So APTA's members are talking about that, I think in a way that I haven't heard before. It's much louder. It's much more engaged, so it's good to know. I think we're on the right track. Another new class of bus operators started last week. It's a small class of 6. We keep churning them through. It's tough because it's a different workforce. It's just like all of you in your workplaces. People don't stay as long. I try not to be judgmental, but it is what it is. I see Kelly. Kelly's sort of like it's a never-ending recruitment and training, and hope that you keep them. Sometimes it's not just the people in the first year, it's people in year 5 who become disenchanted and choose to find their happiness elsewhere. But it's different than when I was a newbie in the business. It's sort of when you hire them, they stayed. Your numbers sort of stayed. You trained a couple of classes a year and off you went. It's a full-time job now, so I don't think that's going to change much. And there's a lot of other activities, and if you have questions about it, either today or home, you look at it and say, what's that all about? Feel free to shoot me a note. Glad to talk to you about any of this, but it's the holiday season, and we've got lots of holiday activities going on in the company, a lot of stuff that we're doing externally with partners, and we're thankful for everything that comes with the holiday season. We're thankful for the success we have. We're thankful for our employees, but we're especially thankful to have a great cooperative board that's visionary, that allows us to do the things that we're doing. So we want to, on behalf of CDTA and everybody who works here, happy holidays to all of you. Stop in the next couple of weeks if you know what we're up to. It seems the next couple of weeks there's always a party somewhere. Plenty of donuts and stuff. Happy holidays. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Carl.
And I think Vanessa did a special order today. It's a little out of the ordinary.
Okay. Corey?
Mike, before we finish this morning, I just had a comment I'd like to make, if I could, thank you. So, with all due respect to the board members here, I just would like to make a comment on the contract approval that was done on October 31st of this year, 2018. Just to note that I had hoped at that time that the board would reconvene out of executive session and acknowledge the hard work of the parties by having a public vote on approval of the new labor agreement between CDTA and the ATU. I would note that there was a significant amount of work that was put into this process since April of this year, and I would like to thank Carm and his team and the ATU team on the end results, which made improvements for our unionized employees and all their families. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Corey.
Yeah, Corey had approached me after we did the vote in executive session, and I regret that we didn't come out and vote in public. It's a significant contract that we only have to vote on once every 3 years, once every 4 years. And, you know, we had good discussion in executive session, and I think, and I shared with Corey that it was a unanimous vote. There were no votes, there were no abstentions, so it was a very positive discussion, but it would have been nice to come out. And I think especially for Corey to have, even though he couldn't vote with us, to be able to sit at the table when the vote happened, so. Hindsight.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
yeah, and, you know, frankly,
Wasn't
and the
intentional.
logistics, it wasn't intentional, you go into executive session, everybody leaves, you're
Right.
literally here alone.
And normally we don't take action, so.
I think it was just an administrative faux pas. No ill intended for sure. Bottom line is, we passed.
Thank you, Corey, Dave, for those comments. And there are no executive session items put in the order. At this time, we seek a motion to adjourn the meeting. Dave, thank you. Second. All right, Jackie. All right, meeting is adjourned.